It's The Local Show on News Radio 570 WSYR, a service of Geddes Federal Savings and Loan and Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts. The Local Show, featuring conversations with business owners, employees, and local business leaders about their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in Central New York. The Local Show is locally produced by Zoey Advertising. Now, your hosts, Tom and Steve.
Welcome in to the 2022 Christmas edition of The Local Show. Merry Christmas, everybody. I'm your host, Tom Soccocio Jr., along with my friend and co-host, Steve Roberts. The Local Show features conversations about local business with business owners, CEOs, CFOs, entrepreneurs, nonprofits, business advocates, and other business-friendly organizations. We talk about how they got into business and why they do business right here in Syracuse, New York, and where their businesses might be going in the future. Now you're going to hear all about their successes, their challenges, opportunities, marketing, and advertising. We're broadcasting from the Zoey Advertising Studios, sponsored by Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts and Geddes Federal Savings and Loan. And then we say hello to everybody's favorite elf on the shelf. It's Steve Roberts.
I'm not on the shelf, Tom. I move around and annoy people. So
they could have modeled the elf on the shelf out of your body physique there.
Maybe a few years ago, because he's kind of thin.
Yeah, well, you're still thin.
Thank you.
The lanky arms.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. How are your glasses working, Tom?
It's a funny thing. I still don't know what the elf on the shelf is.
You know what?
Or what it does.
I don't either. More importantly, I don't care. I don't know. I see people like, they move it around. They don't
get it.
I don't know. I'm usually like a puppy with a bone when I have something like that, but I wasn't interested enough to look in it. Yeah. They move it around. They have the thing. They tie. They do all kinds of. And I guess it's somehow amusing, and that's okay.
Right. Somehow, maybe little kids like it. There's something to that. I don't know.
Or I don't know. It's like the adults that are doing this thing.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And they're putting them in offices.
I think the kids are like, what is that stupid? What are they doing? I don't know.
Oh, fun stuff. Well, we've got a great show for you folks on this holiday weekend. John Tomino is going to stop by. We'll talk with him. He's up first, co-founder of In My Father's Kitchen. And then we're going to talk with Jim Deakins. He's the owner of Crossroads Auction. Josh Ling from Redeemer Church. He stops by. Jimmer Sikowski stops by for a couple of sets, and then we'll do some Tom and Steve Christmas talk about stuff that's local and things that are near and dear to our hearts, and we'll go from there. So it's a Christmas spectacular right here on 570 WSYR, and we say a hearty, healthy good morning to John Tomino, co-founder of In My Father's Kitchen. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Merry Christmas to you guys. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
I think that elf on the shelf, going back to that thing, I think we're all still kids, right? On the inside, it's the little Tom, little Steve, little John that likes that elf.
Tom's a kid. I'm a serious guy.
Yeah, right. One of my favorite memories that I can recall was laying under the Christmas tree. Remember when there was tinsel, when it wasn't like a hazard?
Right. Yeah. It was a hazard. We didn't know it.
I didn't know. Nobody ever died in my family over tinsel, but I guess there was something about it. Anyway, and it was kind of cool to have the tinsel hanging down, the reflection of the lights. And when I was probably 7, 8, 9, I used to slide under there, and I was always doing voices. And I would be mimicking voices from the Christmas specials.
Yeah.
And my parents would be listening in the other room going, this kid's a sick boy. But
I think that's awesome.
I liked laying under there, surrounded by the presents and looking up at the tree.
Remember the tinsel? It was this.
They had the lead stuff, right?
Yeah, remember, there was little Stevie, one piece at a time. Pull it out of the box.
Right. And it would all be clustered.
And it go throw it up there.
I remember that we had 1 year, there was I had 3 brothers at the time because my youngest brother wasn't born yet, but it was a Christmas, and there used to be this other stuff, not the tinsel. It was almost like a snowy stuff. I think it was made out of fiberglass, but it made you itch.
Asbestos.
Oh, I don't know what it was, but 1 year, the 3 of us, we got all into it, and we were itching like crazy. It was like a crazy event.
Was that real lead in the tinsel, though?
That's what made it shine so.
Well, it was heavy.
Special.
I remember there being a heavy one. Oh, my goodness. Well, anyway, John, you've done something really special with your organization. Why don't we give people a little bit of a background, where you came from, and what made you start In My Father's Kitchen?
Yeah, thank you. So my parents, talking about Christmas and stuff, my parents were immigrants to the United States in the 60s, like 1964. I was born in 65. The joke is that my mom was pregnant with me, so I was made in Argentina, who just won the World Cup.
Yes, I was just going to say.
Yes,
World Cup.
and then, but I was born here. So grew up in the restaurant business my whole life. Food was real big. And how I landed within my father's kitchen is because I had an encounter with a guy holding a cardboard sign on an off-ramp. I encountered him, talked to him. He unpacks his life story. That changes my life forever. And here we are now 12 years later, still cooking as a chef and using that talent, but going out and engaging people living in these places outside, not meant for human habitation, and helping them get indoors.
Is there a certain ethnicity to your cooking? Are you Italian cooking or Spanish cooking?
So both. So Argentina has a lot of Italian background. A lot of Italians after World War II migrated. So there's a lot of meat, potatoes there as well. So it's more Italian. I could cook anything.
Yeah.
I love making chilies and soups and all kinds of stuff for the streets.
Now, Steve and I don't like bananas. I found that out in an interview.
It's the only thing we have in common.
Yeah, we have
nothing else.
But do you make fried plantanos?
No, that's more. That's not an Argentinian thing. That's more of like Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico, more of the Caribbean countries.
Gotcha.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you call it bananas,
yeah, you can't call them bananas.
yeah, like they're not bananas. You get to hear that they're not bananas.
But I love platanos. I mean, they're awesome.
Are they?
Yeah.
Do they taste like a banana?
They're similar. They're not as sweet. They're more on the savory side.
Okay.
You know, the traditional way is smashing them and frying them. No,
yeah.
they're good. And you usually salt them. They're not sweet like a banana.
Okay. All right. Well, there we go. So what's the primary mission of In My Father's Kitchen?
So it's direct street outreach. So we go out as an outreach team with a medical team that's embedded with us now, Dr. Lehman from Upstate, and we bring out food, supplies, clothing, toiletries, and now medical care to folks that are outdoors. And then the mission is using those things as tools to engage people, to build a relationship with them, right? And these folks become our friends, and then they buy into the relationship, and they start to trust us, and then they let us navigate them through to housing, to getting off of drugs into rehabs, or maybe dealing with their untreated mental health and things like that. And that all happens with outreach.
What kind of medical things can you do out there? And then if there's a next step, can you get them to the next step? That's got to be a challenge.
Yeah, so it's amazing. So our outreach van is incredible. The things that I've seen on that van happen that you would see in like in emergency rooms. Like a lot of times when you're addicted to like heroin and things and you're doing intravenous drug use with needles, you get infections and you get abscesses in your body. I've seen some pretty amazing things where we lance them, drain them, doc has to pack them, then we have to go back and visit them. It's stuff that you would see in the ED.
Yeah.
Something I wouldn't look at in the ED, right? Because I'm like, yeah, okay, they're doing it, but that's
and prescribing their medication. Some of them don't have their meds, and so they don't have a doctor, so doc prescribes all that. But I've learned a lot about medicine, but I've also seen how that medical piece goes a long way for us to get folks to believe in maybe making a change in their life.
Yeah. How many times a day do you go out and do this?
So we're out twice a week with Doc and our outreach team, but then on the other days we have our higher ground, our work day labor program that's out like as we speak right now. Yeah, there's a van out with 9 people working instead of panhandling. They're out there doing their thing. But then it's 5 hours with someone, where I was having a 10-minute encounter with outreach. Now you have 5 hours with someone and they really buy into maybe changing their lives and turning their lives around.
So do you have staff that's out there during the day looking specifically for people who are struggling?
Yeah, so great question. So on the off days other than those street outreach days, there's care management. So we make these connections on the Tuesdays and Thursdays, and on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, our care managers are out re-engaging with those people that we just met and then trying to navigate them through things. So there's constant touching of that individual.
Wow. All right, we're going to talk more about this and where you go to find these people and how people might be able to interact as a general, consumer person in the community with these people. Coming back with John Tomino, he's the co-founder of In My Father's Kitchen right here on the Christmas edition of The Local Show on 570 WSYR and 106.9 FM.
Welcome back to The Local Show, a service of Gettys Federal Savings and Loan and Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts. The Local Show, featuring conversations with business owners, employees, and local business leaders about their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in Central New York. The Local Show, locally produced by Zoey Advertising. Now, here are your hosts, Tom and Steve.
Back into it and back at it again. Merry Christmas to all of you out there. Thank you for spending some quality time on your Christmas weekend with Steve and I. We've been talking with John Tomino. He's the co-founder, I should say, of In My Father's Kitchen. InMyFathersKitchen.org. That's the proper site, John?
Yes, sir.
Okay, InMyFathersKitchen.org. We were talking about how John goes out there with his team to do outreach to people who might be struggling, not having a home, and living in our community. And we don't know whether, you don't know when you first meet them, whether they have a mental problem or a drug problem. You don't, it's like...
Or both.
Right, or both. Yeah, so you're really taking a chance walking up to somebody and not knowing what to do. How do you approach people and not get hurt?
That's a great question. So I'm not afraid of getting hurt because I think, when you know what you're supposed to do, it's like you guys aren't afraid to go on the radio because this is what you're called.
Well,
right? And some people would be terrified of it, right? So with me, it's the same way.
Yeah.
I just feel like this is my calling. But we engage people that we see standing on the corners. And then we find out based on those panhandlers where they might be staying. Like right now, we have 5 people that we visit that are living in an abandoned house with no heat and running water. They're just in a vacant, they call them zombie houses. And there's a bunch of those in the community that we find out where they're at, and then we'll go visit them in those locations and love them and encourage them. And it's addiction driven, which causes people that I'm working with to be in the situation, which is tough. And it's hard, especially when you see women out there. It's top-heavy men. It's 95% guys, but there are women that are outside, and they're the most vulnerable as well. They're usually attached to a gentleman who might be not the nicest person, but is better than 10 not nice people, right?
So it's Christmas season, Christmas weekend. Where does Christ fit into? What's the bridge? How is this? Because there's natural physical things.
Yep. So as a
spiritual things, it's kind of convoluted. It's complex. That's a better word.
Yeah, it is complex. So with us, as I'm clergy, so I'm an ordained minister. So our faith component of what we do is we live our faith on our sleeves. I live my faith out to our friends. I call them outdoors, and they know the hope that I bring out there. And it's through that relationship where dialogue happens. So we'll talk about things. And one of the ways that the hope of Christ comes in is that I've seen people's lives transformed who have made changes in their lives by adding the faith part to their life. Like Kevin, my van driver for Higher Ground, was a gentleman I met outside. Like these examples that we're talking about, hooked on crack cocaine, disconnected from his family, was in his late 40s. Now he's my age, 57. He's working for me. He's been sober for 8 years. There's hope. Like you said, hope is a certain expectation, and Christ comes through our actions. And then when they ask us, like, why are we doing what we do? The door opens for us to share faith with people, and some people embrace that. And others don't, and that's okay. It's like anybody.
It's got to hurt when they don't embrace it, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, especially like we've lost over the past 3 weeks, 3 people have died. I've done 3 services. I had to do 2 in one day, a committal service to the grave. And then, which Ernie was a guy that I led to Christ in the backwoods behind where now Dunkin' Donuts is on Park Street 10 years ago. But he never could turn his life around in regards to his addiction. And he passed away. They found him dead in the house. I had to do the committal. But for me, Ernie's in my future.
Right.
I have that hope that he maybe didn't get the life that he needed to live on this side of it, but I know that I'll see him again. But then there's guys and gals out there that I'm not sure. So for me, that's the urgency of keeping the love on people and encourage them. And if they don't want to close the deal with the Lord, I'm still going to help them in their natural journey of getting into housing, treating their addiction, getting their mental health under wraps. But if not, if they want that faith part, we bring it. We bring them to church with us.
You say closing the deal with the Lord. What does that mean?
To me, it's like, I'll say, like, I've done last rites on people. I've done like leading people to the Lord on their deathbed. I'll say, listen, because they're carrying a lot of guilt and shame and brokenness. And I'll say, listen, do you want to make it right with God? Like making it right, closing the deal, like saying, hey, Lord, forgive me of the things that I've done. I'm embracing you. I'm asking you to come in and change my life around, right? So, and a lot of our friends have done that with us outside because they carry this load of burning bridges and hurting their families. And the enemy, I call the devil, the enemy is trying to cause you not to turn to Christ. He wants you to live in that place of darkness. And we bring the light of hope of Christ, right? And in freedom and redemption and forgiveness, and then that happens on the streets. And here we are at Christmas time for us as Christians, right? Christmas, there's Christ in Christmas. This is what the season's all about, and it's about the birth of the Savior of the world, Emmanuel, God with us.
Right. Now, the last time we spoke, you talked about having some housing for people who might be struggling up on the north side. Was this for women or for...
Yeah, great, Tom. Thank you for bringing it up. So Lifehouse, my wife has been overseeing this project that we started. So a lot of our women outdoors cross over to sex trafficking. We connected with Judge Davis from Sex Trafficking Court here in Syracuse, and we took in our first resident in the beginning of November. So we have one woman living in a house with us 24/7 with wraparound service for her, with staff morning, noon, and night with her. Christmas time, Thanksgiving, we treated her and blessed her with a great Thanksgiving meal. We got Christmas presents for her kids. She has 2 kids that she hasn't seen, and now we're helping her restore those relationships.
Wow.
And she's going to be with us for 1 whole year.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And it's a whole rehabilitation process?
Yeah, it's to reset them, to restore them, to relaunch them, to rebuild them. Those are the 4 R's. And then within 1 year, if they embrace that process, they leave a whole different person. And there's the faith element there as well.
Right. How do people get involved?
So you can visit our website at inmyfatherskitchen.org. If you want to financially donate, you could donate there. You could drop off donations of clothing and things of that nature, but also you could buy our products, our sauce, our syrup.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about
that.
What else do you? Yeah, you just named a couple.
Yeah.
Name all of the types of products that you make.
So we sell a pasta sauce. I call it Taste and See. It's eating with a purpose. We have a pasta sauce that we
Did
carry.
you invent the
It's my grandma's recipe, Sicilian recipe.
All right.
Time.
Are there bananas in it?
No bananas.
No bananas.
It's got a little kick to it. Some people say there's a lot of red pepper in there. So, but it's good. And then our maple syrup, and then our coffee. And then we have, we sell a travel mug, a thermal thing that you can take with you for hot or cold drinks. And you can find all those through our website as well.
So do you want volunteers?
Volunteers, we don't take it. We have I have 15 staffers now, so it's all staff driven. The only time we ever use volunteers at special events, if we have like a 5K that we pull off or some other things, but COVID kind of put the
And there's a good
damper on
reason
it.
for that too.
Well, yeah, going out to the streets, you can't bring an unfamiliar face. We used to do that in the very beginning when we were smaller, and I realized if I brought Steve or Tom with me, that all of a sudden the person wouldn't
You have a problem
up.
You have a problem with Tom and Steve?
Hey, isn't that the elf on the shelf guy? No, but so unfamiliar face shuts down conversation. You know what I mean? So you're trying to get intimate with someone, and when you bring out someone new, they clam up. So
right. What sides of our town, our community, do you go to look for people?
All through the city of Syracuse, all the way through, and we got some exciting news coming in January, end of January, February. We have a new medical outreach van that's being built for us. So it's 5 foot longer, a foot taller, and it's going to be really tricked out for a doctor and stuff. So yeah, but all through the city of Syracuse.
Gotcha. And do you look for doctors or that might want to
So Dr. Lehman recruits physicians.
Okay, he does.
So I leave all that part of it to him. So I'm not a medical guy, so he handles all that.
Right. So quick question. So you put out the olive branch of hope for people, but that goes for everybody. You don't have to be an addiction. You don't have to be an addict to do that, right, John?
Exactly. So if you're listening right now and you feel like have no hope, it's Christmas time, and you feel like you're in a dark place, I would say it's time to surrender. Ask the Lord Jesus Christ to come into your heart, and he'll come in like a flood, and your life will change. I believe it with all my heart. It happened to me. I believe it could happen for you. So Merry Christmas, and embrace Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior.
John Tomino right there, co-founder of In My Father's Kitchen, inmyfatherskitchen.org. God bless you, and Merry Christmas, John.
Merry Christmas, Tom. Merry Christmas, Steve. Thank you.
Jim Deakins coming up next, owner of Crossroads Auction, right here on The Local Show on 570 WSYR 106.9 FM and on YouTube.
Welcome back to The Local Show, a service of Gettys Federal Savings and Loan and Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts. The Local Show, featuring conversations with business owners, employees, and local business leaders about their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in Central New York. The Local Show, locally produced by Zoey Advertising. Now, here are your hosts, Tom and Steve.
Back into it and back at it again. Ho, 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 and Merry Christmas. Great Christmas weekend right here. Speaking of great, Steve, you know, I haven't been watching the Hallmark Channel as much as I've been watching Great American Family.
There you go. Little more traditional feel and values.
Had you heard about that?
I heard. I of course, watched neither. But I heard the Hallmark Channel took a hard turn to the left and got marginal.
It's crazy. And, you know, here's the thing, folks. It's not that I disagree with diversity or anything like that. It's when you shoehorn things into your narrative.
Agenda.
Yeah, in your agenda that make it not fun for anyone.
So what's on the channel you're watching now?
It's a lot of the actors and actresses who were on the Hallmark Channel had left.
Okay.
And they came over and made movies there, and they put the Christ back in Christmas.
How about that?
Yeah, right. And they actually...
How dare they?
They talk about Jesus, and they talk about the reason for the season, and, you know, and family values.
So what channel is this? What is it?
Yeah, I don't know the number of it, but it's called Great American Family. Okay. It's like 2 or 3.
So it's not the Hallmark Channel. It's a different.
It's a whole different network.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
With a lot of the stars from over there and a lot of new stars. Okay. You know, and just That's nice. It's still cheeseball stuff.
Right.
It's estrogen things like that you probably won't like.
Yeah.
But it's just fun.
Are there any car chases?
No car chases. Yeah. And the thing is, it's not like they're pushing anything other than fun stuff. You know what I mean? It's just not like shoehorny stuff in there. So let's shoehorn Jim Deakins into the show. What do you think about that?
I like that idea.
He's the owner of Crossroads Auction, crossroadsauction.net. How are you?
Very well, guys. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you. So, Jim, tell everybody, what is it that you do except talk really fast?
We liquidate estates for people who need items sold, whether it be a farm or just a residential home, a commercial estate, whatever it may be. We sell items to the highest bidder.
Interesting.
What can I get for Tom?
Could you give me a little boat or sports car?
A gift certificate.
So why Crossroads Auction? Where'd the name come from?
Crossroads Auction, most of the time when we get a phone call, somebody's in a crossroads in their life. They're retiring, someone's passed away, they're in a situation and they got to make some hard decisions in. And so when I thought about the name of the company, I thought, geez, wouldn't that be it? Because when I get a phone call, I say, geez, Jim, unfortunately my father's passed away, my uncle, I'm downsizing, whatever it may be. So you hit a crossroads in your life. If my phone rings, it's because you're in the crossroads of your life.
That's emotional every day.
Right. Oh, it is.
Now, did your great-great-great-grandpa do this or something? Tell us about how...
My father did. My father did.
Yeah.
My father was in the business. We actually were loggers at one time.
Loggers?
And then my father, unfortunately, through an accident, broke his back. He was a great reader, though. Loved to read, loved history, started reading, started learning all about antiques. Started out in the flea market business.
Right.
And then we took on an auction company. He ran an auction company for about 30 years. And then when he passed away, I took on mine. We've been at our location for 22 years
now. Your son's involved too, right?
My son, my son just stepped aboard. Both my sons auctioneer. My wife, her father was an auctioneer. My brother-in-law is an auctioneer. So it's a whole family mechanism for sure.
He said it so matter-of-factly. Wow, my father broke his back. That's a big deal.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
If he did it 30 years, he was not an old person when that happened.
Right.
No, he was a young guy.
Good golly. And there was no way to repair that.
He did. I mean, it was long term. It took a long time. It was a very, very hard winter. He was about 30 feet up in the air, and back then you didn't have bucket trucks. You just kicked away with ropes, and for whatever reason, something broke. He landed 30 feet down, standing straight up, broke all rays and all that.
So was he eventually back to being able to be, functional and walk around and all that?
Yeah, hallelujah, he was. He got full functioning, walking around. I mean, cold days like the rest of us hurt him or whatever.
Sure.
But no, he. It was a tragedy that turned into a blessing.
Yeah, right.
Wow. So we know that. I mean, it's crossroadsauction.net. That's the business. So personally, what does Christmas mean to Jim Deakins?
Oh, opportunity. Right? Christmas to me is an opportunity to let people know they are not forgotten.
Tell me more.
Well, whether it's simply, obviously, the reason for the season, as we always say, Jesus was born. God gave his only son so that we wouldn't, have to perish but have eternal life. And so that tells us we have value and we're not forgotten by our Creator, right? Yeah. But I think we also have the same opportunity when we either hand a Christmas card out to somebody, a handshake saying Merry Christmas, saying, hey, you're not forgotten and you have value.
Have you always felt this way?
Always felt this way.
This is okay.
Always felt this way. And I think in this big world, doesn't matter how much money's in your pocket, but I think there's times we wonder if we do have value or if we have been forgotten. Mm-hmm. And I think Christmas is the perfect opportunity to say, hey, you do have value and you're not forgotten.
And I would think that with that moral fiber, woven into your character, that's the way you conduct business too, where you're fair and honest and people can trust.
I do. Everybody has a value to me.
Yeah.
Everybody does. I don't care who it is, what they are, where they live. You have a value. You deserve respect.
Yes.
And so I appreciate everyone I run into.
I remember we were talking a few months back, and you basically said, and correct me if I'm wrong, something like, you know what? If it's auction is not a fit, I'm going to tell the people.
Absolutely.
It wasn't just like, get your stuff here, I want to sell it. You were like, I want what's best for them.
Yeah.
And I thought that was unusual.
Yeah,
in an awesome way.
I have walked away from opportunities that would have financially helped me very well, but they either did not have the right mindset for the platform that we do,
yes,
right, or they just truly weren't ready to let go of the items. And I'm not going to pull somebody into a situation that they don't belong in.
Yeah. Do you auction off many vehicles, like classic vehicles?
We do. Actually, we're putting something together right now to be able to do an auction out to the fairgrounds when they do the big car show this year. We're trying to put something together to be able to have guys run their cars through and have a registration fee. Then all the money will be donated to a nonprofit organization.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, Rob was on the show last week, so we're familiar.
Yeah, we got one full call in. They're excited about it. After the first of the year, we'll put things together, but I thought it'd be great. We're out there. Everybody wants to know what their hot rod's worth.
Tom wants a Mustang for Christmas. Tom, Tom, paint the picture. What's your car? Your dream car. Yeah, right now, today. I know you had one years ago, but what if you if you had the cash and someone said, "Here's a car," what would it be?
Yeah, '69 Mustang fastback. Like a GT500, probably.
Nice.
What color is it?
Or Shelby Cobra, the blue. I like
the blue. Yeah,
grabber blue with the white stripes. Yeah, that's what I'd probably.
So that's why advertising's so important, so I can get a guy like him in the crowd.
Only I want to pay the least amount, not the most amount, for that.
Yeah, you're one of the three buyers.
Right. How has the internet changed what you do?
It's changed everything. We have so many different platforms now to be able to sell, whether it be through a high bid, was like an eBay auction. We also do YouTube live auctions where it's a live fed video and you bid through the comments. And then our old school way, I guess you could say, is just in person, sitting down, cup of coffee, and looking over at your competitor bidding against you.
Yeah, that seems like more fun.
Okay, here's what I want to hear, Tom. You do this. So let's pretend this coffee cup I'm holding up. Could you please auction this cup off? Tom, you and I are going to bet on this cup. Ready? Go. I want to hear it.
All right, going to buy the coffee cup right there. Everybody's hand out. I'm going to get 25, 25, to get 25, to get 15, I'm going to get 10, 10, 10.
I'll give you 10.
I got 10, 15,
30,
35, 35, 45, 45, I'm going to get 45.
50.
Now 60.
I'm going
to get 60, 60,
you know what?
60, 60.
I'm going to give you John 3:16, and we'll close it out. How's that? It's Christmas, and you're awesome, and we appreciate you as a friend of the show and a fellow lover of Christ, and we're glad you're here.
Amen, guys. Well, again, you guys have a Merry Christmas.
And you too. God bless you. Jim Deacon's right there, owner of Crossroads Auction. See them online at crossroadsauction.net. Josh Lang, pastor at Redeemer Church, the Syracuse campus, is coming up next right here on the local show on 570 WSYR.
Welcome back to The Local Show, a service of Gettys Federal Savings and Loan and Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts. The Local Show, featuring conversations with business owners, employees, and local business leaders about their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in Central New York. The Local Show, locally produced by Zoey Advertising. Now, here are your hosts, Tom and Steve.
Back into it. Back at it, and here you've got it. The Local Show. And if you're here, that means we are too. Merry Christmas, everyone. It's Tom and Steve from Zoey Advertising, sponsored by Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts and Geddes Federal Savings and Loan. We are also on YouTube, so you can see the whole theatrical cinematic trailer.
You can actually you can visualize the frustration we go through things, like when things break, right? You can see it.
Yeah, YouTube. I had the specific thing. You can go to YouTube, of course, and look up Zoey Advertising. Not too difficult for some. Steve has trouble setting the clock, so
I typically have trouble setting the clock.
It's if you do the @ symbol at Zoey Advertising 3809, and you put that right into your browser, it'll take you right to the Zoey YouTube channel, and you can see all the videos, including anything else we make, which may or may not be inspiring.
Right.
But
there's an aerial video.
Yeah, just a video.
Micron property up in Clay. It's got over 1,000 views on it.
Yeah,
where people can see all the property where that's going.
Right. Yeah,
and that's been really.
I think
popular.
people are interested. Yeah, because they're wondering where exactly is it,
and that's on that same page.
Yeah, and if you look really closely, Steve's down there waving up.
There's no waving. I'm flying the thing. There's no waving.
Oh, okay, you're not there. Josh Lang is a pastor at Redeemer Church, Syracuse campus. He's been a pastor there for a little while, and he is joining us right now. How are you, Josh?
I'm doing good, Tom. Thanks for having me again. Good to see you guys. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Redeemer Church is located where?
It is at 3217 East Genesee Street, but the biggest marker is across the street from Nottingham High School.
Yeah, so that's cool. That's not too far away.
No, not at all.
Nice digs over there. Josh, what is your background? What got you into being a pastor?
Well, I've again, had the benefit of just being a part of the same local church for the entirety of my life. And when you're part of something that long, you see, the good, the bad, and the ugly, but there's also that something where you are connected to something that's larger than yourself.
Yeah.
There's something larger than me?
Well, not larger than Steve.
Larger, not taller. Okay.
Yeah. Larger than life. Yeah, I think that if we go back to the times of like Little House on the Prairie, stuff like that, people were involved with a church as a matter of course. There weren't too many people who shunned church. You were a part of it, and you grew up in it, and you lived it.
Yeah, and there are parts of our nation that are possibly still like that, but we live in the Northeast, and from philosophical, theological perspective, we've been quite secular for a while.
Right.
Yeah, that's too bad.
So are less people interested in the things of God than maybe once were? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think it's more of a misdirected interest.
Okay.
And because we are all built with this longing for something that is eternal, something that says, hey, there's something more to this life than what I am living, breathing, experiencing right now. And so what happens is we begin to give ourselves to other things, maybe other people, with the hopes of satisfying that longing for something that is real, something that is transcendent. And the Christian faith says that anything other than putting your faith and trust in Christ is going to ultimately fail you.
Yeah. So what does Christmas mean to Christians?
Well, Christmas is hugely significant because it is when Christ was born. And in theology, we have this term called the incarnation, right? And that's when God took humanity into himself and was born like us. And he went through all of the growth stages like we do, adolescence and, figuring out the career, figuring out, how to just walk this earth. And yet in all of it, we know this is that he was without sin. And so that's why he was able to go to the cross and pay the price for my sin, for your sin. And that's why when we get together at Christmas, there's something more significant than just parties and presents, traditions that we might have, is we're remembering that God made a promise to send a Savior. And on Christmas, we celebrate the fact that that Savior was born.
So how does that get personal from an historical event or even a religious event? Or it's Christmas time, check the box, go to church, hey, Jesus, glad you're still here. That's good. To an everyday experience.
Well, I think the everyday experience here is that Christmas can be a time that is actually quite difficult for many folks, because maybe it's a season of grieving and loss. Maybe it's a season of disappointment. And for other folks, maybe, all of the glitz and the presents and all that stuff is a distraction. You're wondering, hey, is there more to life? And where it becomes intensely personal is the fact that God came in to our world. Mm-hmm. And he was born just like us. And that's important because he was born into poverty. He was born into a situation where he was a refugee, on the run within the first 2 years of his life. He was born into a situation where it's not like they had all of the benefits. Like it's God, he's the king, and yet he came in the most unkingly way that you would expect him to come. And he can identify with us in every circumstance and situation that we might find ourselves in. And the hope of Christmas is that we don't have to be alone, in that there is someone who knows your pain, who knows your suffering, and has provided the answer to your problem.
And if someone's struggling with that, what should they do?
Well, I think, the best thing that you can do is recognize your need for God, and what we would pray. Call out to him and say, God, I recognize that I have this deficiency in me, and I need you. Yeah. And maybe they're listening to our show, today, right?
Sure.
And they hear that. They could just simply say something that simple. They could also, and a lot of places have them, just even get on the internet and look up the Bible and just read that gospel account in Luke of when Christ came and what it means and who he actually showed up to. Mm-hmm. Boy, that's significant for a lot of people. But then also, go to church.
Yeah, right.
Definitely here's an invitation
Fellowship
from me.
with other people.
Yeah, and
tell the
Sunday
story.
mornings at 10, across from...
You know a good church?
Yeah, Redeemer Church, Nottingham High School. But go to church.
Hey, I want to clear something up because you said what you just said so eloquently, and I think that it really resonated with me, and I can understand what you're saying. But my son, who's 16 years old, sure. he'll ask me, he'll say, Dad, well, shouldn't we give Hanukkah the same amount of accolades as Christmas? And I said, honey, they're two different things. Can you explain a little bit the difference between Hanukkah and Christmas?
Well, I got to be honest with you. I don't know a ton about Hanukkah. You know what I mean?
Not something you study.
My specialty is more in the Christian faith. But the significance for Christians, and that's what I can adequately speak to, is that Christ came into the world.
Right.
And if Christ did not come into the world, then all the meaning that we place upon this big event called Christmas really doesn't matter.
Sure, right.
And so that's why we're taking time to focus on him.
Yeah. So it's a whole different holiday.
Yeah.
Nothing, and Steve and I talk about, we have so many Jewish friends and everything like that. But
But as Christians, we believe that Christ fulfilled the Jewish prophecies.
Correct. Right. There you go.
Okay. Yeah. And the foundation was laid in the Jewish tradition, in the Jewish faith.
Exactly. Well, there you go. Pastor Josh, thank you so much. And you have such a great way about you. I would encourage anyone who might be looking for a church, looking to, understand the meaning of not only Christmas, but of being Christian, to go see Pastor Josh Lang at myredeemerchurch.com/Syracuse, Redeemer Church. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Stick around because hour number 2 of the local show is going to start up, and then we're going to have a conversation with Jimmer Soccocio. He's the franchise owner-operator of Chick-fil-A in Cicero and Clay. And then a Christmas conversation with Tom and Steve. That's enough to stick around for, right? Hour number 2 of the local show starts really soon.
It's The Local Show on News Radio 570 WSYR, a service of Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts and Geddes Federal Savings and Loan. The Local Show, featuring conversations with business owners, employees, and local business leaders about their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in Central New York. The Local Show is locally produced by Zoey Advertising. Now, your hosts, Tom and Steve.
Welcome back and welcome in. This is hour number 2 of The Local Show. Get ready for engaging interviews with Jimmer Soccocio, franchise owner, operator of Chick-fil-A, Cicero, and Clay. And then Christmas conversation with Tom and Steve. You'll have to strap in for that one. It's going to be fun. We're broadcasting from the Zoey Advertising Studios, sponsored by Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts and Get Us Federal Savings and Loan. And remember, folks, you can see us on YouTube. All you have to do is go to YouTube, which, people find themselves there every day. I know I do. And just search up Zoey Advertising, and you'll see all the videos associated with Zoey Advertising. Right now, Steve, it is our pleasure to talk with Jimmer Soccocio, a perennial favorite here at the show, franchise owner, operator of Chick-fil-A, Cicero, and Clay. Jimmer, how are you?
I am well. Thank you so much, guys, for having me on, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you and your family. How many kids you have?
Betty and I have 3 children.
3 children together. And what are their ages?
Our daughter Samantha is 22, son Jack 20, and Hunter, our youngest son, is 13.
Yeah. So you're in the high technology type of Christmas gifts and stuff like
cash and high technology.
They're kind of the same.
Yes. It simplifies Christmas.
Yeah, right. In a way, it kind of does. But it was so much easier. I remember going to Babies R Us and Toys R Us, and it was so easy to go down the aisle, and I was grabbing stuff, and it was expensive, but not that bad, and you knew they were going to be satisfied with everything. Yeah. Now it's a little more highly specialized.
I just push the cart, Tom.
Yeah.
Those kinds of
I've
places.
gotten into a habit when someone asks me, "Are you?" This time of the year they say, "So you're ready for Christmas?"
Yeah,
right.
You're ready. Yeah.
I just say, "I don't know. Ask Betty."
Yeah, right. That's right.
No, that's absolutely true.
So, Jimmer, I don't know that there's anyone who doesn't know you, but that would be very arrogant of us to feel like everybody knows
everyone
him.
does listen to the show, Tom.
Well, that's right. So, in case there's people who don't know who you are.
Moved in the area.
Yeah.
They're new.
Why don't you give them your background, Jimmer, and let them know how you came to be an owner of these Chick-fil-A's.
Sure. So I grew up in upstate New York, over near Buffalo. Go Bills. And was fortunate to go to college, SUNY Potsdam, Clarkson University. I got hired right away by IBM, spent 20 years there, felt called to do something more gratifying with my life, and was blessed to be selected as a Chick-fil-A operator about 5 years ago. And so we opened the Cicero restaurant almost 5 years ago exactly.
Wow, 5 years.
February 22nd. Which was the first Chick-fil-A in upstate New York. And then about a year and a half ago, we opened the second restaurant up in Clay. So
very nice.
Yeah, it's been quite a run.
And why did you want to become a Chick-fil-A franchisee? Am I using the right term? Or what?
Well, the truth is, I didn't know that I did. I had a friend who left IBM and went to work at Chick-fil-A at their corporate headquarters, and I kind of fell in love with Chick-fil-A as a guest living in North Carolina. And I would call him every once in a while at Chick-fil-A corporate headquarters, and he would just rave about what it was like to be part of it. And so eventually I reached a point where I knew I no longer wanted to work at IBM. And I called them and told them that, and he asked me if I'd ever thought about being a Chick-fil-A operator. My answer was no.
Right.
But here I am.
And you gave this number before.
Yeah.
And I don't remember. I know it was a big number. 1 out of 10 gazillion times. There was some number of people that actually have interest and then actually get the gig.
Yeah.
Explain that.
So basically, the first step to become a Chick-fil-A operator is you submit an expression of interest online. Last year, about 80,000 people did that.
That's a lot, yeah.
Wow.
And last year, we opened about 140 restaurants. So you can do some math.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
There's a ratio
So
in there
one out
somewhere.
of 8,000. If Tom going to be like Tom, do the math.
It's easier to get into Harvard.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Tom, we're 0 for 2.
something?
We didn't have a Chick-fil-A and we didn't get into Harvard.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Steve's not even allowed on the grounds.
Yeah.
Lord knows I would not get into Harvard,
Yeah.
so I'm glad Chick-fil-A.
Well, you
thought
went to
that.
Clarkson. You must have a bean there somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
don't sell yourself short.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
And Steve, you're no slouch.
Yes. I'm waiting.
Well, you're a tremendous slouch.
Thank you. You did not let me down.
That was good. Tim.
I'm waiting.
Yes.
So, Jimmer, is there anything new on the menu in 2023 for Chick-fil-A? Anything new coming down the pike?
Well, at some point next year, we're going to have a limited time offer sandwich, seasonal.
Okay.
It is a Chick-fil-A original sandwich with pimento cheese spread on it,
Oh, I love that. Yes.
a couple of jalapenos,
It just got better.
and drizzled honey.
Oh, yeah.
And how many calories does that have, Tim?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Enough.
It'll keep you going. It'll stoke you for the day.
Enough to properly energize you.
Yes.
I like that answer.
I like where your head's at.
Yeah.
I like that
And I have
answer.
tried it.
Very nice.
So, what was it about the culture that you wanted to embrace?
You know, what I saw was whenever I was around people who were part of Chick-fil-A, you realize that they feel deeply connected to something bigger than themselves. At the time, I didn't know what it was, but I knew that in a lot of my previous endeavors, most people who worked at the place
Yeah.
did not feel deeply connected.
Right.
So I knew that was special. And then I started to learn about Chick-fil-A, and I realized that it all comes down to one thing: the purpose, our corporate purpose, the reason that every Chick-fil-A restaurant exists, and it is the following: to glorify God by being a faithful steward of all that's entrusted to us, and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And that's pretty awesome.
But where does the rubber meet the road on that? That sounds
Yeah,
okay. So unpack that a little bit.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, when we make our most difficult decisions as a company, where we're going strategically, where we need to invest, that is the point on the horizon, not profit. So that takes priority over everything else.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, during my time at IBM,
That was not
the case.
That was not the mission. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The rubber meets the road when you're making your most difficult decisions. I like to say your purpose or your values are not what you say they are. They're what you walk past. They're what you tolerate. And at Chick-fil-A, it's been my experience, both in my restaurants, obviously, but also with corporate, that at the end of the day, that's what drives us. That's what drives us.
We'll talk about what kind of people work at Chick-fil-A and why they might come to you to work there next. And we'll talk about some of the challenges that you've had as well. It's not a road paved with diamonds and roses. And we'll talk about that next right here on The Local Show. We've been talking with Jimmer Soccocio. He's the franchise owner and operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero and Clay. Stick around. More Christmas special coming and more talk with Jimmer next on The Local Show on 570 WSYR.
Welcome back to The Local Show, a service of Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts and Gettys Federal Savings and Loan. The Local Show, featuring conversations with business owners, employees, and local business leaders about their successes, challenges, and reasons for doing business right here in Central New York. The Local Show, locally produced by Zoey Advertising. Now, here are your hosts, Tom and Steve.
Welcome back and Merry Christmas. You've got Tom and Steve on The Local Show right here on 570 WSYR 106.9 FM. And please Check out the YouTube channel for Zoey Advertising. It's really simple. Just go on to YouTube and search up Zoey Advertising. You'll see all the videos there. Like and subscribe to the page, and then you will get all of these wonderful interviews that we do every single week, like this continued one with Jimmer Soccocio, franchise owner-operator of Chick-fil-A in Cicero and in Clay. We were talking about the culture at Chick-fil-A, and one of the questions I had is, what type of people go to work at Chick-fil-A, and do you specifically seek out a person that has a particular faith, or can they just come in as a secular person and join the team?
Great question, and there's nothing I like talking about more than my people. So first of all, let me answer that question directly, real quick. Anyone can work at Chick-fil-A. Anyone who has a Christ-like heart. That doesn't mean they have to be a Christian, right? Mm-hmm. Anyone who recognizes that every interaction you have with another person is a gift. A gift to shine some light into their life. And so when I sit down with someone at an interview, Tom, what I'm really trying to figure out is this person a remarkable person in some element of their life, whether it's their faith life, personal, professional, academic, athletic. And if you give me a remarkable person, I can work with that person.
Yeah.
I can shape them and coach
So
them.
if I said you want people that are willing to serve other people, is that a fair statement?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, what do we say when you say thank you, Steve?
Well, it's my pleasure.
It's my pleasure.
My pleasure.
Right. It's my pleasure to serve you.
And you got to mean it, don't you?
Correct. So
it's my pleasure.
people are like, they say, hey, Jimmer, do you make people say it's my pleasure? The short answer is yes, in that it is part of our standard.
Yeah.
But what I'm really looking for is for them to feel that in their heart, that it's a pleasure to serve another person.
So let's shift gears a little bit.
Sure.
Tom had mentioned a personal struggle that you're having.
Sure.
And by golly, it's Christmas. Bring those things together for me.
Yeah. Well, for those that don't know, about it's going on 2 years now. I was diagnosed with ALS, and that's a tough road, very tough road. Certainly physically, but even more so emotionally. As I approach Christmas, we're in the Christmas season, it's a great reminder for me of Jesus, how he came to us, what he represented, and the reminder is this: no matter what's going on with me, I can't walk anymore on my own, right? I can't feed myself. I can't bathe myself. But this disease can never affect my ability to treat people as Jesus would. It can't affect my capacity to love. In fact, I will tell you this. It has only increased my capacity to love.
How do you do that in the midst of suffering? Because a lot of people would say, well, yeah, I believe in Jesus and life is not fair and I don't feel like it's treated me fair. Or whatever. I've been betrayed personally or my body's falling apart or whatever. How would you address someone that was in that space?
Yeah. I feel like that at moments every day. Yeah, that's the truth. And what I've learned is if I stay there, what I'm going through is intolerable. But if I make the choice, because I have a choice, no matter what my circumstances are, Steve, I have a choice. If I make the choice to serve others, if I make the choice to focus on loving others, what I've learned is I can do anything, no matter what my condition is.
Right.
I can live a deeply meaningful life without walking, without even the ability to talk. I could. And so that, man, therein lies, like, I don't know, the secret to this whole thing. If you focus on what Jesus calls you to focus on, your circumstances are irrelevant.
Right. So now Christmas, what does Christmas mean to you now, maybe different than it did a few years ago?
It's certainly more precious.
Mm-hmm.
Precious.
Why?
Well, you know, one of the gifts of having ALS is God has given me great clarity. So when I'm sitting in a room around Christmas with my friends or family, I think I have a deeper appreciation of how sacred and precious and delicate those moments are. And so I enjoy them more. I'm not as distracted about all the nonsense that most of us waste our time worrying about. I think for me also, what this challenge has done is focus even more deeply on what Christmas really is, right? Christ coming to us as a human in this world and suffering like we suffer, like I'm suffering, all for us. Man, I just appreciate it all more.
So within the restaurants, you know, you're seen as the leader. Obviously, you started them. How do you lift up the employees? And you know, it's got to be difficult for them to see you like this sometimes.
Yeah, especially a few of them that I'm very close with, right? And many of the people who work for me are not my. I don't look at anyone who works for me as my employee, right? I try to hire people that I could be friends with, and so it's hard for them.
Yeah.
But when they see me doing my thing, continuing to do my thing, I think it gives them hope with whatever challenge they're going through, right? And actually, I find myself spending more and more of my time, Tom, encouraging people.
That's very nice.
The founder of Chick-fil-A, Truett Cathy, once said, "How do you know when someone needs encouragement?" And there was a pause. And then he said, "They're breathing."
There you go.
We all do.
Right, we all do.
So there's so many simple ways. You can just go up to somebody and say, "You know, I really appreciate your smile.
Yeah.
I really appreciate how you greet our guests." Yeah.
Well,
We have an infinite number of opportunities every day to encourage and bless people.
well, you're an amazing inspiration to many, and I'll say a platitude now more than ever.
Right.
As you,
It's funny how that works, huh?
it's funny how that works. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure, brother.
You are a blessing, Jimmer. Thank you so much. And so are the peppermint, what do you call those things? Shakes.
Shakes.
I call them 660 calories.
Also a blessing, right?
Yeah.
Oh, they're good.
Yeah. And Merry Christmas, guys.
Merry Christmas,
I love
Jimmer.
you both. I really appreciate your friendship and you having
thank
me
you,
on the
man.
show. It means a lot to me.
God bless
I love
you.
you guys.
Love you too, man. All right. Next up, we're going to talk more Christmas with Tom and Steve, and maybe a couple of surprises thrown in there. I don't know what they are yet. That's why they're surprises.
That's
right here on The Local Show on 570 WSYR 106.9 FM and, of course, YouTube.
Welcome back. This is The Local Show, a service of Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts on News Radio 570 WSYR.
Christmas, and welcome back to the local show Christmas Style with Tom and Steve. We're both from Zoey Advertising, bringing you this local show, and that organ music in the background, well, that could be from somebody you know here locally making that sound, isn't it?
Well, if you go by the airport, many days you'll hear that young lady, 89 years young, playing the organ. Now, I grew up with that, so what you hear and what you just heard is what I've grown up with hearing.
Yeah.
Now, she's got a little better organ, and she's got, but she just loves to play the music. And at Christmas, oh my gosh, she's in her glory.
Right.
And just loving it and meeting people at the airport all the time. They come up and say, "Oh, Gloria," and sometimes the frequent flyers will see her often, right?
Yeah.
And then
that wouldn't be me, of course.
No, that wouldn't be you. No.
Not frequently flying.
And I just came across some things with some musicians. The Zach Brown guy was there, a month or two ago. I saw that online, and I think it's amazing having my mom at that age. Seriously,
it is. Well, it's a blessing, isn't it? Because a lot of and you lost your dad, and I lost my mom. So and my wife lost her mom a couple Christmases ago. And it's always sad, but it's a blessing to at least have one of them.
No, it is sad, and that's true. And we want. Christmas is great, and we enjoy it, and it's fun. The kids grow up, so they're not really kids, right? They're kids, and things just change, and that's honest. Christmas is still there. Christmas is wonderful.
Right.
We celebrate the birth of Christ and all of those things that are worthwhile. But it changes, right?
Well, it does a lot, and Pastor Josh had alluded to that earlier when he said, what did he say? It's often a difficult time for some people.
Right.
And, of course, that's what Hallmark movies are made out of. Right. It's always somebody, oh, geez, I lost my mom.
Something happens.
Yes, I lost my wife.
Right.
It's awful.
Right.
So everybody goes through it, and I think that the holidays in general, any holiday, even if it wasn't Christmas, it highlights it. It puts a big yellow highlighter over who's missing.
I don't disagree. And we talk about this, right?
Yeah.
And privately.
It's tough.
And it is tough. And it's tough to embrace pain.
Right. And then it's tough to have an exterior that is jolly and fun, and you want to spread that to other people. And some people are inclined to hold it inside and, kind of sit with a wet cloth over their face. That would be me. But I try to break out of that. But
I think you can have both. I think being real is the way to be. So sometimes it isn't like, we're going to bring the whole planet down.
Right.
But the reality is if we don't feel our feelings, we're not really being genuine to ourselves.
Like Jimmer said. Jimmer had said,
right?
several times during the day he might feel down, but he overcomes that and gets out of his own way, his own zone, and helps other people. So when you think of it that way and you do what, maybe Jesus has shown us by example to do, then you start to try to help others and be a blessing to others.
Right. And I'll go back to Mom because, talk about my mom.
And she's great at that.
She's like, how can I bless them today? So she'll maybe pick up some poinsettias or something, and she's like, I feel like I should drop something off to so-and-so. Yeah. And I think and it's genuine.
It is because she doesn't think about herself.
It isn't so people will think highly of her.
Yeah.
She just wants to do it.
There was a gal over to Chick-fil-A when I went and helped out with a photo booth and Santa Cow, and we were taking pictures. And the one lady, and I forgot her name, so I don't want to insult her by calling her the wrong name. But she had said that she immigrated over here from Puerto Rico. And is that immigrating when you go? Because Puerto Rico, isn't that a state? Or
you're still immigrating, that's fine.
But, so she had come over, and your mom had, she'd gone to the church, and she helped get her a TV and brought her over to the house and fed her a meal and the whole bit.
And we always
genuinely.
We've shared this before. We always laugh because at holidays, there's always people at dinner that we don't know.
Yeah, right.
Mom, I made some friends, and we're thinking hi, and it's.
Talk about living it. But all this to say, folks, that those of you who might be hurting and who might be reminiscing and getting caught in that trap of, constantly going backwards and remembering when, that if you get out of yourself and go to other people and say, how can I help this person or this circumstance or this, then you tend to get happier and more jolly.
And as probably folks know, Judy and I have been on different mission trips throughout the world.
Yeah, sure.
And you go and you have a big heart and you're trying to help and you think, you come back and you say, okay, what changed? Me.
Yeah, right.
Because of that,
sure.
generally, I mean, you accomplish some things and help some people, but really, when it comes full circle, you get your eyes off yourself. And I find when I come back from those situations, I'm a little more patient in line waiting for my coffee.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm in line like...
When you've seen how some other
cultures such an American,
live.
where's my coffee? Why did it take 2 minutes? Here's a thought. Get your eyes off yourself.
Yeah.
What's going on with that person today? You were in line. They're backed up. How are they making a fairly low wage, serving me?
Yeah.
Kind of, sort of. How could I put a smile on their face? Mm-hmm. Right? And I think that's great advice, Tom. And when we look at Christmas and we look at the coming of Christ, and it's a blatant reminder that it's not all about us.
Yeah. Sometimes that's hard to explain. I know that a lot of you out there, might have a difficult time with kids because they don't really understand sometimes, and it's hard to put into words what Christmas should be all about. Sure, it's easy to say the birth of Christ, the coming of Christ, and all that, but they don't get it. They're still looking for that cookie. And for me, it wasn't until I embraced Christ personally. It was kind of a machine. Yeah.
Christmas Eve, there's Jesus. Yep, got him. Okay.
Right.
And until I internalized it really and made it really personal and really trusted Christ with my whole heart, that I was able to begin to get my eyes off myself. And I don't get wrong, Tom, I struggle with that. And I'm as failed as they come, probably more failed than they come. But when at that point, that's why Jesus came, so we can have a personal relationship with him. Right. Not just go to church. That's nice. Check the church box. I don't know. Sometimes I like it. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm bored. Let's be honest, folks. Right.
And it's interesting as I've gotten older, and I think some of you out there may have seen it, and then with of course COVID just putting a big monkey wrench into everything. I almost feel sorry for people when I'm out at the store and I'm seeing how aggravated they are and how frustrated they are. Mm-hmm. And you hear the conversations of, well, I haven't gotten this person that. And if I don't get this person this color sweater, they get mad at me. And I'm thinking, how awful is that to just live by that secular thing?
No, and it's someone a long time ago, boxes. Someone taught me there's a performance trap that we can fall into.
Well, I get there.
And it can happen with all of us as professionals.
Yeah.
And my significance cannot be based on my performance or what other people think about me.
Right.
Think about that one more time. My significance can't be based on my performance or what other people think about me. What's left?
Yeah, right.
Really?
Yeah.
What's left? Well, what's left is God's unconditional love.
Yeah.
Christ, who came as a baby to ultimately die for me. Unconditionally. Even though I didn't deserve it. And Tom, you put up with me a lot. We kid, but you do. And and we have a genuine relationship that can do that. But it's Christmas time.
So, embrace that. Listen to yourself and maybe read a passage of the Bible.
Yeah.
And you're sure it's one thing to hear Linus say it, but it's another thing to read it for yourself.
Nope.
Read it for yourself.
Absolutely. I think you're right, Tom.
All right. We'll come back with more Tom and Steve chatter about Christmas and the holiday. So you stick around right here on The Local Show on 570 WSYR.
More of The Local Show, a service of Safe Harbor Wills and Trusts on News Radio 570 WSYR.
We're back at it again, and if you want to hear more of that organ music right there, you go over to the airport and listen to Gloria.
Or go on YouTube.
Oh yeah, that's right.
She does 10 songs. There's a video on YouTube. Go to Zoey Advertising and just look at the videos. You'll see Gloria playing on there, and you can hear it. Turn it up, listen to it in the house, and that organ is beautiful.
Yeah. And that's from The piano and organ
Bob Carbone,
center.
friends over at the Piano and Organ Center.
Yeah.
And you know, he teaches people to play those things.
Right, it's so complicated to me. And it's interesting because I had a conversation with Gloria. Now, for those of you who don't know, my father was a musician, and, you know, I grew up in a musical family. I played for years, and under that discipline of my dad, who made me practice for a couple hours a day. So I asked Gloria, you know, geez, how do you know the chord progressions and what the left hand is doing as opposed to the right hand? And she says, I don't. She's a complete ear player, and she can't even voice a chord. I asked her, you know, what's in a G minor chord? She doesn't even know the notes in it, but yet she knows what to press and how to make it sound perfect. And folks, I'm telling you, from a musician's perspective, this woman plays the correct stuff, and I don't know how she does it.
That's wild.
You know,
I didn't realize what a gift I had growing up.
Listening to her,
well, mom and dad in their entirety.
Yeah.
You know, they're different. Dad, blue collar, carpenter, hardworking guy.
Right.
You know, loved God and loved people.
Yeah.
You know, and was just.
So were they like Sonny and Cher, or what were they like?
And then mom, you know, just being mom.
Yeah.
You know, and of course playing the organ when she had a chance, but even as a younger person trying to love and bless people.
Right.
You know,
so important, especially
great.
in this time.
Great example. So, Tom, when you were a kid, remember when the catalogs came pennies and Sears?
Yeah, they have big catalogs with lots of toys.
Now, could your family afford many of those things?
No.
Neither.
In fact, you know, it's bittersweet, and I told you about this when we were talking about Christmas memories. In my early childhood, when my grandmother was around, and all the uncles and everybody and all the grandparents were still alive and everything, wonderful times, because, of course, that was a buffer to our own personal family, you know, to my dad and my mom.
So that's the older family. Did you go downtown with them? Was that part of it with the older folks back
yes,
then?
right. And my grandparents lived up on the north side, one set of them, and then the other were down in the valley. So anyway, the point being that you had all this buffer, all these different experiences of cousins and uncles and things like that. But then as things thinned out, you know, I saw the frustration of my mother, because, you know, she was just coming from an era where the women stayed home. And the men made all the living, right? So, you know, my father had a hiccup there and a hiccup here where he lost a job and had to regain another job and all that. So, you know, money, and of course we had the whole era of, you know, waiting in line for gas.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Remember all that stuff was going on in our childhood. So, you know, the money wasn't just falling off the trees. So my mother oftentimes, to get a pair of sneakers or a pair of boots and a nice jacket for winter, you know, that was good. And maybe we got a game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But nothing like, you know, I was telling you, and I truly mean this. I mean, Nicholas, you know, a $549 gimbal and, you know, a $2,000 lens is what he wants. You know?
Yeah, I straightened him out on that.
Yeah. At least you got him down to like under 500.
It was the wrong lens. So stick with me on lenses.
Good golly. But yeah, and I think, you know, nowadays with technology, kids want these expensive items.
But don't you remember going, my parents can't afford that?
Yeah, I remember saying
I'm not going to ask for that.
Right.
Because I know that would be a burden. I just know.
Yeah.
And it's not like they're telling me we can't afford it. I just know.
Right.
And
yeah.
I don't.
We didn't put pressure on our kids. Where my daughters in their 20s are still counting things under the tree. Wait, why did I have 4 and she's got 7? And, you know, oh, golly, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's frustrating.
Yeah. And then it's hard to bring, you know, God into it. And it's not hard for me to bring God in. It's hard for them to understand.
No, it is. Because if you have everything, what do you need?
Right.
And seriously, when you think about that, we're such a prosperous country.
Yeah.
Okay, that our basic needs are generally available.
Yes.
Okay, so then, like what Pastor Josh was sharing, we fill our lives with things to try to fill that God hole.
Right.
And that's my words on it.
True.
But there's a gap that we're made, that something's missing.
Yeah.
And we can fill it with other things, or we can embrace, yes, the baby in the manger, but even more importantly, the Savior on the cross.
Right. Yeah, and you have to really take that and have a perspective. So I think doing a little reading during this time of year.
Yeah, the Gospels are, boom,
and even reading good literature about Christmas and stuff too.
Yeah, I'm a fan of going right to the book. It's funny, and I like literature too. I like some perspectives and things. But when you go right to the source, sometimes if you read slow, you some wows will happen. Yeah. And someone taught me not too many years ago that said, what does it say when I read the word? Yeah. What does it mean? And then the most important piece, what does it mean to me?
Yeah, right. What's it mean to you?
Okay, what does it mean? Okay, there we're king. Okay, that's what it says. What does it mean? What does it mean to me today?
Yeah.
And how am I embracing that? Yeah. And I think that's
another thing the holiday does too is it brings us to the closure of the year 2022. Yep. And we always say it, and I don't think people really take into consideration what a profound negative effect this whole COVID thing had on us.
Yeah,
for 2 years of oh my gosh,
and it was a downer.
Yeah, and it's still trickling along for me, and probably a lot of people.
Yeah. And I think people got out of healthy habits. Maybe they were going to church. And
absolutely.
And these healthy platitude, that sounds platitude, but
but you're right.
There's things where we got out of that habit. Yeah. But hanging out with other people.
Yes,
is really important, and hanging out with like-minded people, or maybe people that are a little farther along in their journey.
Sure,
a good thing.
Yeah,
right. We can learn. They get inspired by them, and that's so much of that
had gone away. And I don't know necessarily that it had to. and then even now, and that one doctor enlightened me. I didn't realize that it was a more recent thing that pharmacists were able to administer vaccines. So I think that's why all of a sudden you're seeing that you got to get every vaccine under the sun. Yeah. And we're not anti-vax by any means.
No, and I think what that brings to light is that was fear. And it's fear versus faith, and it doesn't mean that you're stupid and you don't look at science and not at all what we're saying and what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay, but faith versus fear. We can shift the gear to faith.
Right.
It's a choice.
And maybe in this season, you might want to think about that, folks, and really get into it.
I love it in the Bible. It talks about talking to your own soul, like you're talking to yourself.
Yes.
Out loud, affirming things, because our mind will be filled with garbage.
Oh yeah,
it just happens. I don't know.
Well, I have to empty mine out every day. It's something else.
But we appreciate you listening. We appreciate the audience, the feedback that we hear. Feel free. Send us an email. Go on there on Zoey Advertising. We like to hear from folks.
Yes.
And if you've got ideas for next year, bring it on. We want to be able to connect with people, help local business, help local people.
Yeah, if there's a business that you'd like to see on or to have us interview, please let us know.
Yeah. And sometimes we talk to companies that maybe aren't a fit, but we want to encourage them that they can do this, and that comes out of our heart. Maybe not out of our wallet, right? We want to be able to help people. So, Merry Christmas.
Yes, Merry Christmas to you, Steve. And Merry Christmas to all of you. Stick around on the local show on 570 WSYR 106.9 FM. Check out the YouTube channel. Be with your families, and God bless.